Okay, so welcome back to my channel. Okay, this is going to be a quick recap of Absentia Season 1, Episode 6, Nobody's Innocent. Okay, so if you remember how last episode ended with Emily staring down the barrel of a shotgun, the truck driver was pointing a shotgun at her because she had snuck into his truck, and he's trying to figure out, okay, what the hell are you doing here? So, okay, so we pick up there. So he recognized her because, of course, her face is plastered all over the news as a murderer or at the very least a suspect, right? So he knows who she is. So, with the shotgun on her, he asked her to, well, not really asked her, he demanded that she leaves the truck. He still had the gun on her. And so she basically was like, okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to kill me or are you going to turn me in? And so he was like, well, who said I only had two choices? And I'm thinking, oh, hell. This is going to probably be the first person we see that she actually killed, right? I'm thinking, Lord, she's going to drop him, right? But he was like, you know what? There's two things I hate, right? He's like, his ex and the law. And he was like, the whole quote of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And so he was basically like, well, he told her, there's some warm clothes in the truck. And of course, she's kind of stayed off. Was like, what is this guy doing? But he's like, okay, don't worry, I'm not gonna look. He had some clothes in the back of his truck that he allowed her to take, and so he made sure she was decent. And he got back in the truck and asked her where she was going. She was going back to Boston, and he said, well, you're in luck because he's headed to Florida. So I forget where he said he was headed, but he basically said he was gonna drop her off, and he told her she could sleep in the back because those 18-wheelers, they usually have a little sleeping quarters in the back. So he's like, you can just go back there and sleep, and of course I'll wake you up when you get there. And of course she's looking at him like, dude, I don't know, you just pulled a gun on me. I don't know what's going on. I just got my freedom back, and I got a bunch of people trying to take it away, and I don't know if I want to fall asleep with you up here with this loaded shotgun, and I'm me being all vulnerable. But he made good on his promise. He dropped her off and he went on his way. So he didn't turn her in, and you didn't see any of that. So we turn to Crown and Nick. So they're actually at the coroner's office getting trying to get as much information as they can on who this person was. And so the coroner was like, okay, based on what she could see, it looks like the eyelids had been missing, which was Harlow's trademark. That was his calling card, I guess. But of course, this person was killed years before Harlow was even a thought of it in anybody's mind, right? And the fact that the remains were found in an area that was frequented by Emily when she was a kid. That was the park or woods they used to go to and play at. And so of course Crown is like, you know what? He starts like summarizing, like running down, the connection between Emily and all these people. And he was like, well, first, Harlow calls Nick to tell him where to find Emily. So that tells you right there was somebody working with him on the outside, because at this point Harlow was in prison. And then you have Samaroff, who's found, who is connected to Harlow, but they found Emily's DNA on Harlow, on Samaroff, on his body. And then he says, okay, now here we are, a place where Emily is familiar with, a place where Emily has been as a kid, and now we found these remains. And he's basically saying all of these people, the only person they have in common in this whole equation is Emily. And you can see Nick. He really can't at this point argue. Like it's still up in the air. Like what the hell is going on, right? But at this point, from their vantage point, it's not a whole lot he can do to refute that, because at the same no matter how much he loves her, the shit doesn't look good. Things are constantly adding up, and they're stacked against her. Like it's like the more he tries to work, or the more she tries to work to clear her name, the more things come out. Like it's just it's a puzzle with a bunch of pieces that people are not quite sure how they all fit together just yet. So Nick says, Nick asks Crown, so do you think that she was working with him all along? And Crown is like, well, it looks that way, basically. So at this point, point in time, we see Emily. She's getting out of the truck, and where the guy dropped her off, and she basically goes to Jack's house. I mean, who else is she going to go? So she breaks in to his house, basically through the window. She finds a way to get up the fire escape and goes in through the window. And so at this point, he's not home, and she has a phone. I thought that she thought it had gotten wet because she was had gotten in the water. I don't know, but so she took some cereal. It's like this huge plastic tub that he has the cereal in, and she puts the phone in there, and she puts the cereal back. So at first it didn't make any sense, like, why is she doing that? But eventually it did. And so she was trying to access. She still has the pacemaker, and of course Jack used to be a physician, so she was trying to access some program on his computer, I guess, to try to look up the serial number on the pacemaker to find out who it was assigned to or belonged to. And whatever that program was, it was asking for his password. And so she starts going through his desk to try to find something that jumps out at her that could possibly be associated with, this password logging into the system. And then all of a sudden, while she's sitting there, an instant messenger pops up. So the box pops up where someone, it was like, had fun, asking Jack if he had fun. And Jack's response was, not really. So he's somewhere, I'm assuming on his phone, responding to this, but she can see the entire conversation because it's in real time. This conversation is happening in real time, obviously. And so the person says, anything special? And he says, bound and drowned, I'll send you the video. So of course she's sitting there like, what the hell? What's this? So you're trying to figure out, like, okay, what the hell is Jack into? We understand he has a drinking problem, but does he have some other, some proclivities that, that we need to know about? Like, what's going on with Jack? And so the person was like, the person says, I don't like it when you play without me. And Jack responds, roses are red, violets are blue. And of course she's taken aback because, of course, there was the connection with Samaroff and these flowers where he would name his favorite girls by flowers. And then, of course, when Emily first got home, someone had left flowers for her at Jack's place, which were violets and whatever, roses or whatever, those flowers. So she's now flashing back. So it's now, at this point, it's now painting this picture like, maybe Jack had something to do with her kidnapping. Because remember, he's had a love-hate relationship with Emily. So, at this point, it's like, okay, come on, what was Jack, what, if any, role did Jack play in her disappearance? And so Jack says, the person says, am I still your favorite flower? And for a minute, there was no response. And then he responds, meet me at our favorite spot. And so Emily starts looking, because back to the video where I'll show you the video. So she's looking at his laptop, and she, is looking for the video folder. And there's some way you could hide. He had a set of where the folders were hidden. And so when she figured out how to undo that, he had tons of folders, all had names of flowers like roses and city, India, something, all kind of stuff, flowers, right? And so she clicks on a folder that says rose, clicks on the video, and this video plays loud as hell, right? So it's some BDSM video where he's into this torture, like these women are being bound and gagged and drowned and all this stuff is happening to these women in these videos. And it was, like I said, it was loud as hell. So they flashed to the hallway where a neighbor was coming home from the grocery store, I guess, and she heard all the stuff going on, but of course she doesn't know it's a video. It sounds like it's so loud that she thinks it's somebody actually in Jack's apartment, being something happening to them. So she called the police. Emily realized that the police shows up. Obviously, the police shows up. And she gets out the window and goes, she gets back, she escapes. And this is when they find Tommy's on the scene. Obviously, because, he gets a call from Jack's apartment. Of course, he's going to find out what the hell's going on because they're still looking for Emily. So he's there, and the tech person, whoever this was, finds, of course, his laptop is still open. And they find the videos. And, of course, Tommy's like, what in the hell? They're all kind of trying to figure out. So, of course, they turn his apartment upside down, looking for whatever they can find out to find Emily, and they take his laptop. Okay. He said in the exchange maybe at McCormick's or something, so that's how Emily knew where he was, at a bar. And so she goes to this bar. She steals a car, goes to this bar, right? And she's sitting out there watching so she can see him from the car. He's sitting there drinking. A woman pulls up in the car. He gets in the car. They go off. Of course, she follows him. I don't know if it was her apartment or some kind of hotel or whatever the case may be, but she's across the street. She's able to look into see the building, the person's room or whatever that was from where she was standing. And, they have their little tete-a-tete. They have their little situation. And he's passed out and the lady leaves. And so she follows the woman to where the lady went. And it's this bar that she's familiar with, because I think it was a bar that she frequented when she was undercover trailing Samaroff. And so there was a lady there that knows her from when she was undercover. And she actually knew the girl who was involved with Jack. Her name was Violet. And so the woman who was a dancer at this bar pulled her to the side. I was like, what are you doing here? It's dangerous. People are looking for you. And she was like, I need to talk to Violet. And so then she reluctantly, took her back there. Violet was actually in one of the rooms. She was doing like a video show for someone. So Emily walks into the room. She goes into the room and she made sure to stay away from the laptop so the person couldn't see her on camera. And she told her to turn the volume off. So the woman, she told her to continue to dance. And so, because she didn't want anybody to know that there was somebody else in the room. And so the woman continued to dance and do her little moves or whatever. And the whole time, Emily's asking her questions like, what is her connection to Jack? And she was like, I've known Jack for like 8-9 years. And so she's like, okay. And she, well, off and on 8-9 years. And so she said, but he only got back in contact with her since Emily came back. So for 6 years, so she said, well, how long did you guys lose contact? And the lady Violet said 6 years. And so, of course, 6 years was the same amount of time that Emily was MIA, right? So she said, when did you guys lose touch? It was shortly after she disappeared. So now, again, more and more stuff is coming out to make it look like that maybe Jack possibly had something to do with her disappearance. Okay. So eventually the bouncer comes to the door, knocks on the door, and she says something. I think she's rushing or something, and she says something. The bouncer busts in the room. It's a whole scuffle, and Emily ends up getting shot as she's running away. So, and eventually Violet, she ends up calling Jack to let him know everything that's going on, right? So now he knows that Emily knows his connection with this woman, and all that jazz. So next you have it was just a quick scene between Nick is back at the office, and because Crown is like, we need to go all the way back to the beginning to figure out who first named Harlow. Like, this is where it all began, where Harlow's name came up. And so Nick is at the office and he's going through the files, and he came across the name Julie Carter. And so he had to ask Crown about something about who, because there wasn't a lot of information about the woman. And he wanted to know if Crown knew of this person or knew if anybody he could ask about this person or whatever. So I guess they came across a former agent named Ash. I guess he's retired or whatever. And so you flash to Warren. I keep saying the grandfather, but Warren is Emily's father. So Warren and Flynn is at Warren's place, and they playing the game just for your grandfather and grandson. They having a good time, and Alice goes to pick him up, and she asks, he made some comment about Emily, right? And so she, Allison obviously told him, you go ahead on and go and get in the car, and I'll be there. I'll be out there. And so she asked Warren. She said, "Have you been talking to him about Emily?" And he said, "Well, of course I have, because she's innocent." Da da da. And so, of course, Alice is like, I think that we should be careful about what we say to him, because if it turns out that she is guilty of what's going on, that's going to have a negative effect on him. I guess a worse effect on him, because you've built her up in his mind of being this type of person, And now, he eventually finds out that that's not who she is. It could really devastate and hurt him. So that was basically her point. He said, and if she's guilty of what they say, and then of course one was like, well, who's they? Are you part of they, Alice? Would you say, have you been denigrating her in front of him or with him or something? He said, and she was like, well, no, of course not. And she was like, you know what? I'll just bring him by next week. And so she walked away, and you could tell he kind of felt bad. It's like, I'm just trying. You can see that everything she's doing, she's trying to protect him. But it's like, goddamn, everybody. Ever since Emily came back, she's being questioned left to right and being asked to be considerate of Emily and take Emily's feelings into consideration, and and it's like, poor Alice. So she left. So Nick meets up with Ash, and he finds out about this Julie Carter, and Nick finds out that the only person that met Julie Carter was Emily. She was the one who found Julie Carter and said that she had named Harlow, and then a few days after that she died of an overdose. So now Nick is like, God damn. So if she's the only person that met this woman may or may not even exist. We don't even know, right? And then, she's figured Harlow. And so the only person that's alive, that's still living, that can attest to this encounter is Emily. So now he's like, shit, that's one more thing against her. Like, her credibility is shot at this point. So he's just like, okay. So they part ways, and he ends up going home, and he pulls up, and Flynn is sitting in the car. And he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know. Alice said we were going somewhere. So he goes in the house, right? Now, all this time in the last episode, he was ignoring her. He had shit to say to her. He was still, because he's all conflicted, about his feelings between her and Emily, and, and just asking her to be patient and all this other crap, right? So she's like, so he walks in, and he sees she has some bags packed. And he's like, okay, well, what's going on? And she basically, and that's when she chose to tell him that she was pregnant. And so he goes in to embrace her, and she's like, no, mother sucker. You haven't had a whole lot to say to me, and I'm over this shit, and I'm tired of coming in second. I'm tired of your confusion, and you not knowing what you want, and I'm tired of, basically questioning where I fit in your life now, all of a sudden. And she basically told him the only reason you're with me because it was a relationship of convenience. The only reason you're with me is because you couldn't be with her, and now that she's back, you now all of a sudden everything is in question. And he was like, well, I thought I put my past behind me, but I didn't. But I want to be with you. I want my family. Da 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 da. And he was like, no, he said, you're saying that now, basically. So she basically told him, you need to catch her, and you need to get some closure, and then we could talk. And she left. She went and pulled her little bag, and she got on in the car. And I'm like, okay, I can understand her leaving, but technically Flynn is not her son. So I don't know. I was kind of confused by that. Like, how you just going to walk off with his son? Yeah, you helped raise him, but he's not your son. He's not your child, technically. But he let her go. I mean, wasn't a whole lot he could say. But she went on and left. And so obviously with all this going on, they find out that so Tommy, they're back at the police station. They've gone through his laptop, and they found out that he had a bank account that was opened right around the time that shortly before Emily disappeared, and they were seeing these large cash deposits that obviously that didn't coincide with his income at the time. He was a doctor, so he obviously made decent money, but they're like, even the amount of the money that's being deposited into these accounts doesn't really make sense. And so Tommy goes to see his former employer, and basically his boss was like, he showed up to do a surgery drunk, and that was pretty much the end of his career. And so, and Tommy said, so, and that's when you start the process to have his medical license pulled. And he said, well, yeah, that's protocol. And the fact that his absences, after Emily disappeared, that he would, between his father and Emily, he would disappear for weeks at a time. And I'm like, and when he said his father, I'm like, I don't know, was his father sick at the time too? Like, he didn't say, but he just said between his father and Emily. He would disappear for like a week. So it was like, you know, he was like, we were trying to be understanding of what he was going through, but when you throw the alcohol on top of that, and, you know, he's in a profession where you just can't be slipping like that. And so they was like, we really didn't have a choice. And so Tommy started asking about, do you know anything about this money? And the guy was like, well, we noticed that somebody was embezzling money. Like, we would see orders for, I guess, big ticket items for the hospital, but we would never receive that. But we would never receive the items. And so Tommy was kind of making the connection, like, huh. And now Tommy's a medical equipment salesman or something to that effect. So he's like, So he's putting two together. And he was like, oh, okay, thank you, you know, whatever. And so Tommy calls Nick to tell him what's going on with what he's found out about Jack. And so I guess they're in the process of going to they're trying to find Jack, because of course Jack know now. At this point, Jack has been to his apartment. He's seen his apartment has been torn upside down, and he sees that his laptop is missing. So he knows that the police know, right? So Tommy is back at the office, and he receives a phone call from a man who saw something interesting on a webcam. So when the bouncer busted into the room during this scuffle, Emily found herself, I guess because she had dropped her gun. So she went to get the gun, and she ended up being on the webcam. So this person, whoever was watching this woman dance, saw her in the room getting the gun. I don't know if he didn't see her get the gun, but he saw her kind of get up off the floor. So that was the footage that the person said, you know, sent to Tommy. And so Tommy put two and two together, and he was looking at the website that video was on, and I think it was connected to Jack. I guess that was the website that he would go to watch this torture porn that he was all into, right? So he gets people up, and so now they are about to go out to look for Jack. Okay, Nick goes back to the office to let Crown know about the conversation he had with Nash about the woman, this Cara person that nobody's ever met except for Emily. And so while they're talking, Ericsson comes around the corner like, you guys need to come and see this. So the whole team is surrounded, you know, they're surrounding the monitors or TVs they have so they can see the news. And so there's a news story that is obviously real time showing that they have uncovered a mass grave. And so all you see is a row of skeletons, of remains. So, so now Nick and everybody is just looking at this like, oh shit, what in the world is going on at this? What is going on? And so while they're all sitting there with their mouths and eyes all wide, bugged out, right? They flash to Emily. So Emily is still in this car. She's been shot. She stops in the woods somewhere, gets out, and now she's kind of leaned up. It's pitch black, so she's kind of leaned up against a tree. And so she pulls out her phone and she's calling somebody. And at first you don't know who she's calling, and she's calling Jack. And so Jack is still walking around his apartment. He's in there trying to figure out. You know, he realizes that his laptop is missing and his apartment is torn up, and then he hears this buzzing sound. It was the phone. She was calling the phone that she had left in the cereal container. So he's walking around trying to find find out where this noise is coming from. And he finds the phone and he listens to the message. And that's basically where the episode ends. So at this point, we don't know whether or not he's going to go and meet her or whether or not he's going to call the police. Because she basically was like, she wanted to meet him. She's like, I don't know how much time I have left. But she basically wants him to come to talk to her to let her know why. Because at this point, I think she's convinced that he has something to do with her disappearance. She didn't say that in the recording. She basically said, I just want to know why. And so he's standing there with his, holding the phone in shock. So you don't know what's going to happen. And so that's how this episode ends. And it's only like, I think 4 more, because I think it's 10 episodes this season. So we're almost done. And I can't wait to see how this all ends at this point. I'm just like, at first I didn't know if I was going to continue on redoing the recast, but now I'm like, I got to find out who's responsible for what and how all these people fit together. So I'm going to leave this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.